All right, good day everyone. I am Keziah Luyao and I am your facilitator for today's discussion. So before anything else, let's pray first. Amen. Okay, so good day class. So how are you today? Nice. So based from your reactions, I can sense that you are all doing great. So I hope that you are all ready for today's discussion. So before we begin our proper lesson, remember to stay respectful at all times. Raise your hand or use the reactions if you want to speak and keep your microphone on mute unless it's your turn to talk. So let's also make sure we maintain focus and give our best effort today. Are we all clear on this? All right, thank you so much. For the checking of attendance, please write your name in the in-call messages so our class secretary can record it. Class secretary, please ensure everyone's name is listed. Okay? Thank you. So before we dive into the next topic, let's quickly review what we discussed in our previous lesson. So who can tell me what our previous lesson was all about? Yes, Miss Charlene?
Our previous lesson was all about the structures of stories, ma'am.
Yes, that's right. Very good. So today we are going to have an activity first. It's called the plot twist game. So I'll tell you a short, incomplete story, and your task is to come up with your own creative endings or twists to continue the story. So here is the start of this story. A girl was walking alone in the woods when she heard a strange noise. Okay, so who would like to be the first one to complete the story? Anyone? Yes, Miss Lovitos?
So she turned around and saw a glowing orb. When she touched it, she vanished into thin air.
Wow, that was a nice idea. Okay, others would like to add? Yes, Miss Estemada?
She followed the noise and found an abandoned cabin. Inside, a mysterious voice whispered, "You shouldn't be here."
Wow, that's so awesome. Thank you so much. Next, who would like to add some more? Yes, Miss Charlene?
She froze in fear as the noise got louder. But then a puppy emerged wearing a golden collar with her name on it. It led her to a hidden treasure buried in the woods.
Oh, that's also a good one. Very good. I love how creative and imaginative your answers are. So now, I have here a short story entitled Little Red Riding Hood. So I will give you a time to read it. So are you all done? I think 1 minute is enough. Okay, so now please answer the questions here. So for the first question, who are the characters and what was their goal? Yes, Miss Lovitos?
So the main characters are Little Red Riding Hood, her mother, her grandmother, the wolf, and the woodcutter. Red Riding Hood's goal is to deliver food to her sick grandmother.
Correct! Very good! Okay, for the next question, what challenge does Little Riding Hood face? Who would like to answer this question? Yes, Miss Melesha?
Red Riding Hood faces the challenge of being tricked by the wolf, who disguises himself as her grandmother and plans to harm her.
Great! Thank you, Miss Shirley. Next, for the third question, we have what is the turning point of the story? Yes, Miss Estimada.
The turning point is when Red Riding Hood realizes that the grandmother is actually the wolf, just as he is about to attack her.
Very good. So for the fourth one, how is the problem resolved? Who would like to answer this one? Yes, Miss Levitas.
The problem is resolved when the woodcutter arrives, saves Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, and drives the wolf away.
Very good. Great answers, everyone. I think you already have the idea of our topic. Am I right? All right. Thank you. So now, for the following question, we have first, how does each event connect to the story's lesson?
So each even highlights the importance of caution and not trusting strangers. Red Riding Hood's naivety leads to danger, teaching the lesson to be careful and aware of who you trust.
Nice! Great answer, Miss Malesha. Thank you so much. For the next one, if you were in a Little Red Riding Hood's place, how would you handle the situation differently? Yes, Miss Estimada.
If I were in her place, I would avoid telling the wolf where I was going and would be more cautious when meeting strangers in the woods.
Great. That was so nice idea. Well done activity everyone. So now let's shift our focus to how stories are built. So understanding the structure of the story will help us see how different events connect and create meaning. So today we are going to learn about the elements of plot in storytelling. So here is our learning objectives. Now, let's proceed to our lesson proper. So now let's start by defining what plot is. So, a plot is the sequence of events that make up story from the beginning to the end. So, it's what keeps the audience hooked and makes the story meaningful. So, a plot usually consists of five main elements, and these elements work together to shape the narrative. So, for the first element, we have here exposition. So, this is where characters, settings, and basic situations are introduced. So we get to know who the characters are, where the story takes place, and what the initial conflict or problem is. So for the next element, we have here the rising action. The rising action, these are the events that lead up to the climax where tension builds up and the story becomes more interesting. So it's the part where the conflict starts to unfold. Okay? For the next one, we have climax. So the climax is the turning point or the most exciting part of the story. It's when the main conflict reaches its peak and the outcome is uncertain. So think of it as the most intense moment in the story. So after the climax, we have the falling action. So, following action, these are the events that follow the climax and begin to resolve the story's conflict, leading to the conclusion. So, for the final one, we have the noma, so which are we call resolution. So it is the conclusion or the resolution of the story. This is where all the loose ends are tied up and the story comes to a satisfying end. So now that we know the elements of a plot, let's think about how they shape a story and engage the audience. So each element serves a purpose and contributes to the flow of narrative. But what happens if we change one of these elements? So, order and timing of the plot elements can change the emotions and experience of the audience. A good plot keeps us engaged by building tension at the right moments and resolving the story in a satisfying way. So, for example, let's think about the Little Red Riding Hood. What if the climax, when the wolf is about to attack Red Riding Hood, happened at the very beginning? If the wolf revealed himself and attacked right away, we wouldn't have had the build-up of tension as Red Riding Hood travels through the forest and talks to the wolf. So the story would feel rushed and might not be as exciting as it is. Okay? So now imagine. So imagine delaying the resolution. What if after the woodcutter saves Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, the story doesn't immediately explain what happens to the wolf? Maybe the story ends with a wolf running off, leaving us unsure if he'll come back. So this could create suspense and leave readers feel unsettled. But it might also feel incomplete for some who wants clear ending. So these examples shows how the order and timing of the plot elements can change the emotions and experience of the audience. So a good plot keeps us engaged by building tension at the right moments and resolving the story in a satisfying way. So as we analyze more stories, let's think about how the author uses these elements to make this story effective. So to see if you really understood it really well. So I have the question here. Why is plot important in storytelling? Yes, Miss Lovitos?
For me, ma'am, the plot is important because it organizes the events in a story, making it easier for the audience to follow and stay interested. It gives meaning to the story by showing how the conflict develops and resolves.
Very good. So for the next one, how do the elements of plot work together to make a story engaging? Yes, Miss Abapo Krisha?
So I think the elements of the plot work together by building up the story's tension, delivering the most exciting moment, and then resolving the conflict to create a satisfying experience for the audience. So each element connects to the next, ensuring the story flows smoothly.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Krisha. So for the third one, we have, can you think a story you like and identify its plot structure? Yes, Miss Lovitas again.
Little Red Riding Hood, ma'am. So in the Little Red Riding Hood, the exposition introduces Red, the forest, and her goal. The rising action includes her meeting the wolf. The climax is when the wolf reveals himself, and the resolution is when Red and her grandmother are saved.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Miss Lovitas. Very good. So it seems like you listened carefully and understood the lesson very well. So, all right, class, thank you so much. So, for our next task, you will read and analyze a story of your choice. I will upload a submission box in our Google Classroom after class where you'll find the instructions and the criteria. So your task is to read the story, identify its plot structure, exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement, and provide a short analysis of how the elements work together to engage the reader. So here are the stories. We have three choices here. So first, Wind in the Willows. Second, The Adventures of Pinocchio. And third, Alice in the Wonderland. So make sure to pick one story, read it carefully, and follow the instructions I will post in the Google Classroom. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask during class or leave a comment on the post. So I will give you 15 minutes to answer this after class, okay? Please leave a heart reaction for me to see if you got it. All right. All right. Thank you. So now we are going to do a matching activity. So the questions in column A have their corresponding answers in column B. All you need to do is match the questions with their correct answers, okay? Okay, so let's begin. For the number one, who would like to answer? All right, yes, Miss Lovitas.
For number one, ma'am, I think letter B, exposition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Second one, Miss Milesho, go.
I think the answer for number 2, ma'am, is rising action, letter C.
Okay, let's see later. Number three, yes, Miss Lovitas.
For number three, ma'am, letter A, climax.
Okay, let's see later. For the number four, yes, Miss Melisha.
Is falling action, letter F.
Mm-hmm.
E.
Okay, thank you. For the last one, number five, yes, Miss Moremolieno.
I think it's letter D for resolution.
All right, thank you so much. Let's now reveal the answer. And you got it all right, class. Great job. This shows that you really understand the lesson. So thank you so much for participating. All right, class. So it's assignment time. For your assignment, you'll be writing your own short story. Make sure to include and clearly label the designated plot elements, such as the exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution within your story. So each element should be easy to identify and should correspond to the appropriate section of your narrative. So take your time, be creative, and remember to apply what we've learned about plot structure. Also, refer to the worksheet attached in the slide to guide you through and organizing your story, okay? So, here's the criteria for your assignment. You can take a screenshot for your guide, okay? So, before we end, are there any questions or clarifications about today's lesson? Okay, none? All right, so thank you all for your attention and participation today. I am looking forward to our next session. Okay, thank you so much and goodbye.